Good morning, everyone. I'm very fortunate to be here. Probably after the party of last night, a bit difficult to get started with all of us, but I'm going to try and move that around because I think we have news to share that is probably a bold statement to a lot of you guys. The title tells it already, HTML5 then and now, but I try to tweak it a bit and stating it very boldly. It's also here to stay. And I'm hoping that after 15, 20 minutes of this talk, you will also agree with me that it is here to stay because we have proof and we have the experience and we're willing to share that with all of you on board here. Yeah? What I would like to do first is, I see already a couple of familiar faces, but who of you is a game developer? Okay, so it's already a good audience. HTML5 game developers as well. Fewer of them, okay. So that's where my convincing part should kick in. That's gonna be okay. Let's see at where we actually are right now, and let's start off with after your introduction, being a developer focused on HTML5, probably Flash developer moving over. Who am I, and why am I standing in front of you right now today? A lot of words. Gaming, already for 12 years with Spil Games. I was there in the early days with HTML5. I've been doing a lot with people like Piotr, also in the audience, kickstarting the HTML5 evangelizing part, I think 4 or 5 years back already. And why did we do that? Because we were already in an early stage convinced that it should be the future of online gaming. It should be solving the problems of multiple platforms. Okay, that might be true, but why do I know all of that? Why do I have that experience? I think I have a background as CTO for Spil Games for over 6 years, 7 years. I've been focusing on kickstarting a lot of products internally within Spil, focusing on an advertising next generation platform, focusing on game development, focusing on building our mobile platforms, and combining all those efforts, combining all that experience is why I feel very comfortable to share with you why it's actually here and it's here to stay. Yeah? It started off a few years back when there were some superpowers that actually said, okay, yeah, this is definitely gotta be it. And Nick already introduced it. If he got $1 for every time, this is the year, that was said that this is the year of HTML5, he would be almost rich. Oh, I can tell you, I think we cracked the nut. We already created a couple of fancy titles out there that is really amazing in terms of quality. And it's amazing because I've been seeing games 4 or 5 years back, and they were, well, something to be proud of back then. But if I look at it right now, I probably start laughing. And I think a good example of my memories when I was praising HTML5 a couple of years ago, this was the game that we were most proud of. This was really the game that we were most proud of. And maybe you probably, on a static image, you don't see the difference. But I can tell you the game was actually redrawing a lot. It was constantly refreshing the screen. There was no audio support in there, so the experience was really, well, poor. And I also think that, yeah, the lack of controls and the lack in firing off the balls and spawning them was really slow as well. So to give you a bit of proof of what we consider as a huge improvement, last year one of our partners created a new and improved version, which already looks like this. And I hope you all agree that in terms of quality and in terms of the experience, this is definitely a lot better. And again, we're looking at a static image here, but wait until you play it. And you can play it on our portals today. So if you want to play it, feel free to go to one of our portals, like in the Netherlands, spelletjes.nl, but also to agame.com. It's there, and I'm sure you will enjoy it with all the interaction, with the audio, with the controls. Everything is working extremely well. Before I'm going to share more proof of what Spil Games and its partners, its game development partners, have been able to achieve so far, and why we believe that we cracked the nut together with our partners on HTML5, I want to take you back a bit in time and share what has been evolved in the past 4-5 years. So it's all about the promise that was sent before and the effect. And I'm going to take you through what has been seen in the visibility of HTML5 over time. And it basically started in already 2004 when Mozilla announced or requested the first HTML5 draft, but it's only being picked up officially in 2008. And that's also where you saw a big hype getting off. And the hype was all about showcasing the technology, showcasing HTML5 itself. And that went quite well for a couple of years. And Nick, not to offend you, but then there was a guy already on stage, started to whine about HTML5. Nick is from Facebook, by the way, so that's why I'm saying no offense. He's a nice guy, probably, but he didn't see the light on HTML5, but we did. And I don't know exactly why he didn't see it. I did see that a lot of people from the industry started to doubt all of a sudden. But at the same time, when we were actually going down, we also saw a lot of partners and a lot of companies showing off that it is actually possible. So we are currently here. We are just on the rising of using HTML5 as a productive tool to create cross-platform content. And in order to better understand why we are finally there, I think it's very important to look at the three main influencers of why that is actually changing for the better. That's also what the title was about, HTML5 then and now. So how does it differ today from a few years ago? I'm going to take you through so three things. One, the technology, the audience, because that's very important to get a game addictive and to share it, and at last also the monetization part. All right, so I stick to the Superman team, just love the guy with superpowers, but Superman was also a guy who had technology, and he had a lot of technology that no one else had before, or that people just didn't know about. And I believe personally that we also have technology already available, but you just don't know about it yet. And that's what we at Spil Games, we want to share that with you. I want to share that with you. I want to get the developers together and share the experience that we've gained in the past couple of years, which I believe is awesome. So what are the typical technology drivers that were impacting the success of HTML5? I think most common and most known with all of you is the browser support. There was no true browser support. There wasn't really support to get, for example, the different APIs on WebGL or audio or connected everywhere on the browser in the same consistent manner. I think that that's pretty good solved, or if it's really something that differs from browser to browser, there are a lot of frameworks out there that already solve that problem for you. I think another important thing is tools, because the tools that we had in the era of Flash were so much easier to use, and everything was actually already compacted in that one interface that would allow you to create game content. It's now more fragmented. You need different tools for audio than you needed for rendering. You need different tools for the game mechanics, and that's something that is getting off. It's spawning into tools like Good Technologies, which is a very good partner of us, but also Veralt Studios is a good example. They create 3D modeling content and allow you to publish that easily to the browser. Audio, that's probably the most heard complaint that I received often. And audio is at its stage, I think that a couple of people already cracked that. Howler.js is maybe familiar to some of you, is a library that really helps you to get audio across the different devices and the different operating systems. It really works like a charm in probably 90% of the cases where, again, a couple of years back, you probably wouldn't have made it up to 2 or 3 browsers. So it's really going in the right direction, and I think it's there, and it's perfect to actually serve you. One thing that we didn't really influence ourselves as the industry, but that did really help speed up the adoption of HTML5 is also what I show you right here is a browser mark. It's a score to show how fast the different APIs and the different services within the browser are being rendered. And we had those different devices from the Walmart, from the large stores that were all of a sudden gonna sell those cheap tablet devices. But those cheap devices were often also extremely slow. They didn't have the CPU power to render the fancy graphics that we need in order to bring that perfect game experience across. So all in all, I think those are the technology reasons that I would check off all of them to be sufficient for proper game development nowadays. But in the end, what would be the success of HTML5 without a good audience? I wouldn't say Superman liked to have the audience, but in the end, no one would know about him if he wouldn't be in front of them a lot. And I think that's the same thing with apps and with games. Who of you actually submitted games to the app stores? Apple or Android? I think it's safe to say that it's extremely difficult to get your app to the top, right? It's not that you're the next Rovio, the new Angry Birds, and Flappy probably coming by surprise, but I have seen more of those concepts before, but it's just extremely difficult to get it to the top. And that's also where we believe that the DNA that we are comfortable with is the open web. And the native stores are perfect, and they are there to stay as well, but they're not bringing the games to the user in a way that you can actually influence it, because there are already over 1 million apps in that app store. I think a funny analogy would be if you remember 10, 12 years ago that you had to go to the store and you had to buy your CD-ROM to play a game at home. And all of a sudden there were game portals online offering Java downloads of similar kind of games. Maybe the quality wasn't on par with the PC CD-ROMs, but at least you could play those games already at the convenience of your browser. And this is the same thing that I see happening today. Today you can actually download very compelling experiences in your browser instead of having to download that from an app store. You can just get it everywhere you are. So whether you are on a tablet or a smartphone, or you're actually on a desktop, or maybe later on at a television screen, you are able to run that game as long as you have a browser. And that's typically something that I think for the audience part is getting traction right now. Another thing to support that growth of audience is also to look at the devices that are being sold. And the devices typically now, those are the red bars, our tablets are really on the rise. And tablets, I don't think that I have to explain that, but if you know that 1.2 billion people around the globe are playing games, there's a big risk involved if you're gonna bet on just those users on the desktop. And if you know that the tablets are actually in the rise and you have to make a choice between Flash or HTML5, I think it's safe to say that HTML5 is actually the better one to gamble on, because it will be supported across the different platforms. Okay, last but not least, because I think this is a very interesting announcement, if you haven't heard it already, from our CEO, Eric Goossens, 2 days ago. Well, we cracked the nut on the monetization part for HTML5, but not limited to tablets or touch devices, also on a desktop and potentially in the future also all the different devices out there. Because we believe that there isn't a true ecosystem like the app stores have with payments and everything to monetize your game. And we have been struggling with that, especially since we are so focused on the open web. We needed to be there, and we needed to have a way to monetize that. And again, if you would look at that same scenario that I just draw already, it's about the crowded app stores, trying to get your app to the top, trying to get the device fragmentation under control, because otherwise you would still not reach the audience that you would like to have. It's extremely difficult to get users, audience in, but it's also extremely difficult to monetize that through all those different app stores out there. They all have their own way of dealing with payments, their own way of dealing with advertisements, etc. So what did we do? We created something that's really close to our heart. It's something that we have years of experience with. It's a solution that we already have in place for multiple years, and we have a network that runs on a global scale. And I think you're already guessing what that might be, but it's actually simple. It's just advertising. Advertising in a way that is non-intrusive, in a way that it's actually engaging with the user at natural breaks within the game. So whenever you play a level, you reach the level, we get a call from the app, from the game, and we are deciding whether we're going to show an ad or not. And we'll even have certain influencers in place within the algorithm that supports, for example, if a user has been winning or has been losing a level, we will take that into account in order to show an ad or not. So I think, and I'm very proud actually, that this is the Spil Games platform that enables the indie developers, but also other developers, to monetize their games on a very large scale that we already have on our own platforms with over 180 million users every month. And on top of that, thank you, Nick, on top of that, we will also add all our external publishing partners that will also add up for a few hundred million. So easy to distribute your game, easy to monetize that, and technology is probably also covered. And I probably hear you think, well, sure, but prove it. Prove it that it's actually there, that we can create games in HTML5, and it is here to stay. And I think we should be able to do that with the following slides. As mentioned, we are operational with a couple of games, not limited to 2 or 3, but we've really seen traction with multiple games that already work quite well cross-platform. And one of the games that you can start playing on girlsgogames.com is Popstar Dentist. And the great thing on this game is, and I haven't seen that in the past few years myself, is that whether you go to that game on your tablet or on your smartphone or on a desktop, it's exactly the same experience, but optimized. So optimized that if you use your, well, I have a thick finger, or you use a very small pointer device like a mouse, or you just want to use external controls, it will be working within this game. And these are things that wouldn't have been possible a couple of years ago, and I wouldn't have been bragging about it if it wouldn't be done already. But it is, and I'm very proud of this game in particular. Another one, which is more focused on a different audience, is Zombies Can't Jump. And the good thing here is remembering back that we had a lot of those games that didn't really perform well, and trying to aim a gun at someone and trying to shoot and do the animation, it was just impossible. And this game is so fluent on all the devices that I've been playing it on, and again, so consistent across all the different devices, that I am sure that this is another good proof point, and I'm again inviting you to play that on your own device. One that's actually being launched last week, this week actually, is 1001 Arabian Nights from our partner Blindsy, who has done an incredible job on a revamp of a game that was already quite successful in the Flash era on our portals, and now is available across the different devices. And if you look at the graphics, and probably in reality it's even a better experience, and again, I encourage you to test it out yourself. It's a native live experience, really. And in terms of audio, in terms of animations, everything. So all in all, because of that, I'm comfortable. I'm comfortable to share with you that HTML5 is here, but it's also here to stay. And I hope that Nick is going to make a lot of money on his bet, but this is the future, and I've seen it in my browser. And believe me, if you need help, if you want to share the knowledge with us, but also the other way around, if we can help you to get your games to the audience of Spil Games and our partners, I will be your guy to do that. So feel free to connect me in any way possible. Easiest way would probably be through Twitter, but also on my email address, Robbert@spilgames.com. If you want to know more about it, there is a brief overview already on spilgames.com/platform, and more about the company Spil Games you can also find on spilgames.com. Thank you very much.
So we have time for a few questions, but first of all, for those of you who don't know who Spil Games are, tell us, do you develop your own games? Do you publish other people's games? Tell us a quick 2 sentences for what Spil Games does.
Valid question. So Spil Games, I think we consider ourselves best as an ecosystem. We facilitate publishing of games. That could be our own content, but it's also content of third parties. And at the same time, we also distribute games not on our own platforms, but also on partner platforms. And I think that's the easiest way to explain what we do. Next to that, we also have our own game studio. We do a lot of research and development. We know what we're talking about because of that experience. And we hope to bring together all the developers and share that knowledge so everyone can benefit from it.
Okay, and then related to HTML5, what percentage of your portfolio is currently on HTML5?
We are now roughly above 10% of all our audience already playing HTML5 games. In terms of portfolio, don't know the exact numbers, but it's going up rapidly. And I know that we're, for example, licensing over 100 games every month and counting. We hope to end up around 1,200 games by the end of this year already.
Perfect. Any questions from the audience? Sure.
Want to? Hi. You know I'm skeptical about HTML5 and I'm a big Flash enthusiast. Necrophiliac maybe. So the question, I have a lot of questions, but time is limited. So if at some point HTML5 gets to be very competitive to the App Store, don't you have also the feeling that Apple will pull the chain again and say, bye-bye HTML5, not supported?
Well, we can turn the question around as well, but let's not do that. By the way, if you have more questions, feel free to come to me right away, and we'll have an extensive chat if you like. But to answer your question, I'm not afraid of the App Store itself, because the App Store is also a distribution model for us. We will use our games wrapped into the App Stores, because in the end, our role within the industry would be to get the games to where the users are. And those games are also available in the App Stores. And we have a team, a post-production team that can already take care of that. So we will be there. We will be on the open web. We will be on all the browser-based devices out there. Good enough? But I will convince you.
Any further questions? Well, we've got a few minutes. We're waiting for Albert to hear. So if there's an indie developer there who wants to come and see you, what kind of terms and conditions can they expect if they produce a great HTML5 game and pass it off to you? What are they going to get out of it?
Well, I think the good thing is that I've been sharing the advertising platform. We have extensive knowledge and experience with advertising partners all around the globe. And we are not going to be difficult about, okay, what is a developer going to get? We're very transparent. It's going to be a 50-50 reward. So if we make money, you will make the same split. 50% of the revenue comes to you. And a very good example, I think, of a game that we've been licensing before is from a company that we work with who created a franchise of Snowball. And it's an extremely good result of a game that used to get about $500 license fee, one-off, and now is at a top-line revenue of 20,000 euros a month. And this is a very good example of, I think, the solution that Spil Games can bring to the indie developers at the conditions that we have to discuss and negotiate on, but that is usually not the difficult part, and there are plenty of people out here that can help you there.
Okay, one last question.
Just picking up on what that guy was asking about,
Harry,
about just that guy, just about Flash, and maybe there's other developers in the room as well. We were talking about platform. I'm just curious about, you know, most games I see currently are still Flash-based. I mean, maybe I've just got lucky or unlucky, but is it like with Flash, people are like, oh, they've had like 10 years, give someone else a go. Oh, Unity sounds cool. Why don't we try that for a while? I'm curious why Flash is seen to be just sort of going down when it, as far as I'm aware, it still delivers across platform with the Air. It still performs as good as any other technology. So I don't know why the fashion has gone against it.
Yeah, well, I think it's not something that we decide on. I think it's the industry that is changing the support for Flash. If you look at Android, for example, they pulled the plug on Flash. If you look at iOS, they pulled the plug on Flash. So the support for the plugin isn't there anymore. And I agree, you could use some interpreters, or you could use Air to support the game on your device, but it will still have a need to download that plugin first prior to experience that game. And I believe, for one, that you don't want to have too many bottlenecks thrown up to a user to experience a great game. And that's the reason why we believe in something that works natively within all the browsers. And that's the answer to HTML5 versus plugins like Unity or Flash.
Right. Oh. Unity has a plugin, right?
Yeah. 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 True.
Okay, we've run out of time. Robert, thank you very much indeed. That was an awesome presentation.
Thank you.